Coming soon to this theater.
Next week on the Drive-In Asylum double feature, we will see guest host AC Nicholas, Sam, and myself will be here to talk about two fantastic films, Hard Ticket to Hawaii and Death Moon. I'm very excited about it. I hope you are too. I hope you'll come back and join right now.
For a year about Hard Ticket to Hawaii. So, in case you're wondering who picked that one, that's on me.
Might have been Sam.
Yeah. Man, what a movie. I'm excited to hear what everybody thought.
Yeah, Sam and John.
I was just going to say, I love the comparison to Nancy Drew that Steve Wilson is saying in the chat. It's so true. And it also sort of reminds me of just teenage girl in peril movies like I Saw What You Did and I Know Who You Are. And then I thought it was interesting too that this film was made like 2 or 3 years before The Stepfather, and they bear quite a lot of similarities, I think. Yeah.
Sam, how about you?
I loved it. Obviously, originally Richard Franklin was going to direct this, which it would have been a much classier, better directed movie. But and more.
Would it have been though with that script?
I think Richard Franklin's a great director. Psycho 2.
Richard Franklin would have ruined it. He would have made it good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He would have made it good. My favorite thing that I read about this movie is that Michael Winter was going around the town of New Rochelle meeting and speaking to 17-year-old girls about the movie to audition for the lead role. Unfortunately, some of the local townsfolk suspected him, of being a child molester. Luckily, he was friends with the chief of police, and this was nipped in the bud. That maybe really tells you everything you need to know. This movie's crazy because, one, John Paul Jones's music is from another movie or several movies. Crazy. And that song at the end, Christy, that's John Anderson from Yes singing on that, which blew my fucking mind. That how would this happen? He's like, let's have Johnny. Like, it's like I know there's a lot of progressive rock in Italian movies, but was not expecting it at the end of this movie. This is like the most soap opera-y, hysteric. Near like if you said, "What if Mary Hartman was a slasher?" It's kind of what I think this movie was, and I love it. Also, that car driving
without the braids.
Oh yeah, the car driving scene was crazy. The fact that the guy got in bed with her super quick. Also, the pregnant girl that died. If the car had hit her from the front, her breast would have protected her. They knew that the only way to kill her was to hit her from the back. I don't know what special effects company did her breasts. Incredible work. Just he got into bed with her. And if you guys were watching the longer cut of it, there's 2 cuts of it we said on YouTube. The longer cut, she realizes that she's bleeding and she puts her hand down her pants and checks. Last thing that I wanted to say that I like the most about this movie is while the mom is downstairs bleeding, having been thrown down the steps twice, finding out she's going to die at 2 a.m. We'll discuss why 2 a.m. We all have our own theories why they're going to wait the net. The stepfather yells down the steps that she's a slut and that she slept with Paul. And it's like, the mom's been through enough. She doesn't need to know that her daughter was bleeding all over the sheets. It's a crazy amount of things. Oh, man. It's so good.
There's also like a real like kind of an incesty vibe to this. It's like not only is she sort of kind of hot, like they like her friends are like, "Are you hot for your stepfather? Is that why you know so you don't like him?" And then the whole thing about Brenda and her husband like pretending to be brother and sister for some reason.
Yeah, weird.
And the stepfather's fuck game is strong because like every time he's with a woman in this movie, she screams at the top of her lungs. Like he is like the master of love. Like, and you know that's exactly how her brother. I would like again. I was gonna say I'd like to think. Part of me thinks that really is her brother, and they're married, and they do have an ancestral relationship, and it's just creepy all around. Also, I've never passed even to my wife. Now, every time I pass my wife a bottle of ketchup, I am going to fondle her as I pass it to her like they did. I can't.
You must. Isn't that the way all married couples do it? That's how he knew they were married.
And that was supposed to be this subtle thing that he was noticing, and they were just like, "Here's the ketchup."
It reminds me because there's a lot of homophobic guys in wrestling. So anytime you have to pass something to guys, I always like to take my time as much as I can and run my hand. It gets them really upset. Like, why would you do that? And I'm like, why are you upset? Everything's cool.
In the chat, I really love that. I think it was Kill That Matt Official said that he was reminded of R.L. Stein while watching the film. And when I was first reading little details about the film, just not having seen it until tonight, Fear Street kept coming to mind as I was watching even as well. Although it sort of has maybe more of a brightness to it than Fear Street stories do. Just in, I don't know, more of an after school special vibe, but with kind of a Fear Street plot.
I also like that the bad guys get such a, well, actually, I was going to say just the bad guys, but her friends getting hit by the car was horrible too. Like every death in this movie is horrific. Like people get, the electrocution scene is fucking crazy. The car hits crazy. It really goes all in on it. It presages Death Wish 3, which is the next movie Michael Winter would make after this, where I think 178 people are killed in it. It's out of control.
That electrocution scene was special because you could tell they wanted to make it look like her hair was standing up on end because she was electrified. So they blew like an air jet up her back and it made her hair go whoosh like a hair dryer.
The clothing in this movie was insane. Like our heroine wore 4 to 5 layers all the time. Also, the crazy thing is like her new boyfriend went from a very well developed, I don't know any other way of saying it, girlfriend who was pretty wild and didn't even care when the door got open and her friend walked in, to a who looked like a woman. And our heroine looks like a very young girl, which is upsetting. And when she has sex with him, she just slides under the covers and stays there. Doesn't let him see anything. It's a strange world that Michael Winter has created. Yeah. I've never seen a Tom Holland movie that has this much sleaze in it. So, well done, I guess.
Yeah.
Who do you think the target audience was for this?
Me.
Well, that's the thing too, is that it's not only about kids, but it also is almost like playing to kids, like with that bombastic music score and the whole thing about just alternating between like, you know, horror and then just her just being like, oh, whoopsie daisy, I'm bleeding all over the place, and like the stepdad makes a comment about her being a slut and she rolls her eyes, you know, or whatever. And so it's like for kids, but it's also like incredibly R-rated. So yeah, I don't know exactly.
Like you could see how it could, well, if Michael Winter hadn't directed it, if someone else made it, you could see how they would appeal to the female heroine, because I'm sure a lot of teenage girls have found themselves in this situation, hating their stepfather and not, you know, wondering what goes on. So it could have got that I saw what you did kind of feel to it. Instead, they let a lunatic make it, and it's just
because this would have been a great PG-13. Like this could have been on a double. If this were PG-13, it could have been on like a double feature with like The Gate. You know, and played to the same level, you know, like it's 13 to 17-year-olds could watch this. But instead they made like this, you know, Michael Winter's like, no, let's do an R-rated movie with nudity and violence. And it's like, yeah, but it's a kid's movie though, right?
Also, Christy's like, our heroine's like, every time she has sex, either her stepfather comes in, or a man comes and hits her boyfriend with a candlestick in the back of the head. Like she should never have sex again. She should just she should be done. Just be done.
I never thought of that. That was 2 traumas.
2 traumas, and also Josh is the worst. Like obviously he doesn't wear a condom, so like he's already got one girl pregnant. Like, and not only has he lost his girlfriend, he's lost his child. Right. Well, she keeps trying. That's the worst part. As he's getting ready to put it in her, she's like, "There's something I need to tell." She's about to tell him that his dead girlfriend was pregnant, and she's like, "Oh, never mind, just fuck me."
Yeah, I don't want to get you. So here's a question. This is a question that I always want to ask. If these characters, if this happened in real life, do you think that Christy still to this day would like be like thinking about this all the time, or do you think she'd be over it? Like,
well, I mean, if we're applying the Halloween thing, like one night there was enough to
right.
like 40 years of terror. And it's like
Right.
this is a lot more than one night. This is like weeks of prolonged terror.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, she probably still would be milking it. I can totally see like Christy like still doing book tours. Like, I've written another book about how betrayed and bewildered I was when my stepdad, turned out to be a killer.
My wife would be watching this on Forensic Files right now. Like, this is a total Forensic Files or Unsolved Mystery kind of story that would be on. Also, but what is up with that 2 a.m? Why do they have to wait till 2 a.m. to kill them?
It's symbolic. I don't know. What did you guys? It's like symbolic, like, because they had to say that a burglar broke in, and I guess for whatever reason they had to make it believable. They were like, okay, we have to wait till 2 a.m. because that's when burglars break in, and they're gonna do it method style. So they have to like put themselves into the headspace of a burglar. It's like,
why? And can you imagine when the cops would come through if their plan has succeeded? And they're like, at 1:45, somebody made blueberry pancakes. What the fuck was going on in this house?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, and by the way, here's the stepdad who's all beaten up. Here's me, this like weird, greasy, random Italian guy, and this incredibly slutty, like manipulative, like conniving ass woman is just like hanging out in the house going like, well, we were just, watching TV and something happened. And yeah, they would never have gotten away with it. Not in today's world.
I agree with Eldon. That portrait of the mother is very Joan Crawford that was above. Who has a portrait outside of Joan Crawford, which I would buy? Who has a portrait of themselves in their house like that?
It was a rich people thing. Yeah, it was. She was rich.
Yeah. Calla in Boarding House had a huge blow up picture of herself over her bed.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of? What did you guys think of Lolita Lore, the femme fatale in this movie?
I loved her.
I did too. She was really striking. Her outfits were pretty incredible, especially the leopard print one that unzips from the shoulder.
Right. Yeah.
I heard you remark on that when it came up on screen.
Yeah.
She only had one credit. So she was on. So Lolita Lore on IMDb only had one credit, and I'm always very kind of skeptical when somebody in a big featured part in a movie like this only has one credit, because I'm like, are you using a pseudonym? And I was able to sort of track her down, and I found out like her name is Lola Lysham, and she's a ex-Broadway actress, and she had a bunch of other credits, but for whatever reason in this movie she's credited as Lolita Lore. And so I wrote this article about how wonderful she is in Scream for Help, and how Scream for Help is just this atonal, like awful movie that I love. And she really acquits herself well in this movie because, everybody else is like insane. And she actually like comes across as like, pretty decent. For whatever reason, she got furious at me, and she sent me this email and called me an asshole or something. Actors, man. Actors, like, they always have like some special reason why like everything that happens to them is like super special. Like, no, don't talk about Scream for Help. That was the time that I was getting a divorce from my husband. It's like, nobody cares what was going on in your personal life, sweetheart. Like, you're in this movie. Like, we're gonna talk about it.
How did she expect you to know that?
I don't know. You know how actors are. They're crazy. I mean, I actually told this actor once. I told him. I said, you look like one of the guys in Savage Streets. You look like the hot Italian guy in Savage Streets who's just wearing a vest. So he Googles that guy, sees what that guy looks like now, and then tells me that I need to apologize to him because now he feels insecure that he's going to grow old and age badly. And, and like, I'm like, okay, wait, so I hurt you? Like, tell me again this morning how I hurt you and how much I need to apologize to you. Like, that's why I don't direct anymore, because actors, I just want to make cartoons.
Thank you, Tim Dortch. I'm glad you enjoyed our two.
That shower scene's a really great scene, though. Like how the water is almost going to hit the camera. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
It was suspenseful.
Scene. Yeah, that was, I think, the most original scene, the most well-crafted scene.
There's parts of it that approach that, and then there are parts where they almost hit a baby carriage, and it's like awkwardly edited and just strange. It's like really, like, I don't know what was going on, but
it was just a lot of like, you see what I was saying? It was like, it's one of those movies where like it's kind of like Showgirls or something, where it's like a normally good director is just once you start fucking up, you just can't stop fucking up. It's like not only is the script fucked up, but like the music is and the direction is and just everything is just off, you know?
Yeah.
It's
It's,
strange call after strange call.
That's kind of what I like about it, though. It's not like nothing really normal happens in this movie, and I like that. Like where their school, even the school that they go to, you said feels like a dentist's office or a doctor's office.
It kind of looked like the death spa.
Yeah,
Like they're all just kind of gathered around this like weird like open air atrium room with like polished banisters and stuff.
that water cooler just in the middle. Like what my high school never had a water cooler.
And also it was all like, so the interiors and stuff were all filmed in England. So I was looking at those high school kids and they all kind of looked very, if you go back and watch it now, you can tell they all look very English. Like they're all sort of like, all the white people are all like kind of toothy and kind of like dead behind the eyes. And like, and so I'm like, okay, you guys you're not American.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish that analogy had gone further.
Did you notice at the end that they thanked the Chrysler Corporation for their assistance in making the movie? And they're like, you showed a movie where one of our cars was faulty and almost killed a baby. And like, but hey, you're welcome. Thanks for using our cars.
But it was Paul Fox's fault. He
Yeah.
he did it. He fixed it.
But then it says to me like, oh, everybody at Chrysler dealerships is out to kill you. Don't maybe marry them and have a stepdaughter. Like, see, I'm kind of litigious, so maybe that's why. But I don't know.
Was he really a car salesman, or I thought you guys were just saying he looked like one?
No, he was. That they were saying that like he had started working in the dealership and then he like started sort of flirting with the mom and that's how he got in. And it's funny that the dad never like Christy talks about her dad and she talks about how Paul Fox stole her mom from her dad and how wonderful her dad was. And the dad never figures into the plot. Like he doesn't show up to save the day, or she doesn't confide in him how she feels about Paul. It's like once the dad is gone, the dad is gone.
The
like,
dad got a payoff from the mom, and he was like, "You know what? I escaped." And he was just like he's on some island somewhere.
Like I wonder if the dad was ever included in the script and they cut him out, or if they just for whatever reason just thought that he could be, just a plot point for the daughter to like ruminate on, but he was never actually going to make an appearance in the movie.
Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't say her dad's full name when she mentioned her dad.
Josh Dealey.
Josh Dealey.
I kind of think also, I don't know, I haven't done the research. I didn't go on IMDb or anything, but I feel like the guy who played Josh, he might be English and not American, because sometimes when he phrased questions, he phrased it in like that British way that they do. Like, are you still thinking about your stepfather?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you sound like
what
British.
Are you wearing your clothes at 1 a.m.? What are you doing?
Yeah. Are you still wearing your clothes? I thought you were asleep. And I'm like, no, you sound like a British kid. And plus he's like he looks British because he's all kind of mangled and pale.
Why didn't you answer the door? I've been through a pile of toast waiting to meet you. I remarked on those cars too, Frank Polvino. Like they all were driving almost the same car when they had that pile up at the intersection.
That whole driving scene, she again, like this movie, sometimes she was the best stunt driver, sometimes she was the worst, just like this film, and it's just wild. And it's like, and I like that the dude's like, just turn off the ignition. Well, it's power steering. You're not gonna be able to steer the car. That was my first thought. Put on the emergency brake. And nobody thought about that.
And how did they end up actually stopping? So she turned off the car and then like he slammed on the brakes and suddenly it worked and the car spun around and came to a stop.
I think that the way they hit that last car magically stopped them when they spun and hit it.
Yeah. I like how he reaches down and like pulls the gas pedal off and the thing, and he's like, oh shit, now it really doesn't work.
Yeah.
Why did the brakes work when he did it, though? Was it because he was a man?
What, Bill?
I want to know why the brakes worked when he reached over and slammed on them. Then the car stopped. It was like, was the movie saying because he was a man, that's why
Yeah,
the
female
car stopped?
driver. And Michael Winter was like, female drivers might. He's
Yeah.
not Australian, but you know what I mean.
Michael Winter's like, she's hysterical. She's probably having her period. Of course, she can't put her foot on the brake.
She didn't hit the brake.
This is why women can't drive in England.
This is
Also, I was wrong earlier. Michael Winter did get married. My wife told me before she fell asleep, and Michael Caine was his best man. So Justice said Michael Caine will show up to anything. And anything. So.
See, he
This
did
is a
have
little bit
friends.
random, but I was going to mention the bathroom explosion at the end was pretty impressive. The pyrotechnics there, if they wanted to go an easy route, they could have just blown open the door of the bathroom. But like you see damage in many different spots on the wall. It blows out a window. That was a powerful explosion, and I enjoyed the commitment of that.
I was amused how the house was on fire at the end, but there was no smoke.
That's true. There was no smoke.
I do like also how the boyfriend when he saw the explosion, he goes, "That's Christie's room," and it's like, no, it's the whole house blowing up. But sure, yeah, the intrigue of it being Christie's room is really what's.
I just looked it up, by the way. Josh Dealey is played by Corey Parker, and he is a New York City actor. Believe it or not.
He must have been taking direction from Michael Winter too, literally, because he was phrasing that stuff Britishly.
He was the ship's doctor on the Robert York Love Boat from 1998.
Oh, that's a good gig.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
25 episodes.
Okay.
He's been in a ton of stuff. He was in Liz, the Elizabeth Taylor story. He played Eddie Fisher in it, the TV movie. That's a great role too. And let's see what else. Not a lot of. He was on 6 episodes of 30-something. He's in White Palace. He's in I'm Dangerous Tonight, the TV movie. He's in Big Man on Campus, Biloxi Blues. He did a lot of stuff.
When did he? What was his last credit? Did he retire at some point?
He's in Friday the 13th: A New Beginning too. He plays Pete in it.
Oh.
Let me see. His last credit is 2017, and he has 48 upcoming or one upcoming movie, The Trouble. So yeah, 2017, a couple shorts. But he looks a lot more rugged today than you would have thought he grew up.
Steve, I'm sorry you watched the edited version. I guess the link messed up. Some people couldn't see it in the chat, so I apologize. I used to post it on the page, but I was afraid that post that I was making with the links in it was keeping people from seeing the broadcast. So I'll just have to start putting that post up again with the links. No biggie.
Also an acting coach on some of the Marvel TV shows on Disney. So that kind of, I guess, makes sense.
There's like the best gigs for actors once they kind of stop acting is acting teacher or real estate salesman. That's pretty much how they do.
There is an Italian connection somewhat in the. Oh my gosh, the man in it says Man at Motel. Whoever that is, he was Ingrid's father in Demons 2, which we showed last week.
Really?
Yeah, his name is Antonio Cantafora.
How did he just randomly end up in this movie?
I don't know. He's in a ton of stuff. He's in God Said to Cain, Baron Blood. This feels like a fake.
Who's he playing Baron Blood?
He is Peter Kleist.
Oh, Peter. Wait, you're telling me that Peter from like the young guy from Baron Blood, who's like Elkie Summers' boyfriend, who reads the incantation, he played Man at Motel.
Yeah, Michael Colby. He's also in The Bitch, the Joan Collins movie. This feels like something I would make up, some kind of weird IMDb game to catch you.
I think this is like some kind of because I mean, why would he just show up in this movie? And who was the man at the motel? Like,
maybe when she was the guy coming out with the other prostitute.
And the guy from Baron Blood is just this random extra in a movie. I think they probably got his name mixed up, or know how they'll take like two completely
Yeah.
different actors and like meld their
Yeah.
profiles together.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a couple of times. It's frustrating. That happened with Werewolf versus Vampire Woman, I think.
Well,
One of the movies
other
we had
crazy
on
one
here.
is Richard
No, it
Oldfield.
was Love Me Deadly. It was Love Me Deadly when the lead actress in Love Me Deadly, her IMDb said she was on like the Knots Landing or something, and it totally wasn't the same person.
Yeah.
One of the cops is played by Richard Oldfield, who is Hobie from Empire Strikes Back, one of the X-wing pilots. You know, everybody in the Star Wars movie has an action figure, and he was also in Life Force. He's one of the mission leader who gets killed in the beginning of the movie. So, I guess that's a super deep IMDb cut on this movie, right?
Well, I'm just sad there was no sequel.
Where would they go after this? Is her mom ever going to be able to date again? On her end,
Yeah.
right? And her daughter is not going to be cool with her mom dating anybody. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
you know, the last guy you dated, you know, like killed both of us.
It could have been a movie like Ordinary People. Just all about a trauma in a family and the aftermath.
Well, and if you think about the stepfather again, when they tip over the birdhouse on the post and kind of decide to make their own way in life and not be perfect like the stepfather wanted them to be, and I don't know, there's hope probably.
Yeah.
So she actually, so the girl from this movie has commented on my blog a couple of times just to say hi to fans, and she's like, yes, I'm retired, but thank you for remembering Scream for Help. And I think I know that one of the reasons why Brenda was so mad and lashed out at me, and it was because the article that I wrote about her only had like 3 comments on it, and they were all from guys saying that who I really should have tracked down was the girl with bigger boobs who got hit by the car. So, but I think she has a name. Her name is like, I don't know, like Mary Smith or something. So there's like no way I'm ever gonna find her.
Really, like that scene was shot like where the camera, she was dead center the whole time. And then usually when that happens, like someone gets caught in the movie, there's a cut where you don't see the nudity again, right? It's like a real quick one. And it's like, it was on screen for a long time. And it was like, sooner or later, this is going to, like, what if my mom walks in there? Not
Those are the best kinds of movies to watch, Alden Glenn, where you have more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite kind.
I love those movies too.
Why is she doing this is my favorite thing to ask while I'm watching a movie.
I mean, there is a little bit of Dress to Kill in this where she's trying to catch him in the act. Like, do you know what I mean? Like how, what's his name's character?
Oh, like where you had the camera outside of the office and stuff. Yeah, she's being very sort of Keith Gordon in this. Like,
yeah. Who Keith Gordon is 100% De Palma's avatar in that movie, because De Palma would go, his mom got him to follow the dad around and record him.
Wow.
And tape him. That was one of his jobs as a kid. But yeah, the Polaroid is hilarious because like today, well, she would just have an iPhone and it would be an easy catch. She would just hold it in the window, get it, and just walk away. They just text her mom and that'd be it. It'd be over. The best part of this, though, is I know John reacted to it, was like once the stepfather turns heel, right? Completely turns. He's like, yeah, it was an affair. And I got sick every time I could. And he just like decimates her. He has like a minute speech where he just ruins everything that he's done over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, like talks about what like a fucking horrendous old, you know, nasty bitch she is and stuff. And it's like, are you not even going to try to like leave room for like a reconciliation here?
It's pretty brutal.
It'd be a different movie if the mom was really hot. You know what I mean? Like she's an attractive older woman, but like by comparison to the other woman, it's very night and day.
Yeah, they were definitely making her like look like she was somebody that you wouldn't really want to be with no matter what.
She was definitely, the mom is sort of like, I'm forgetting the actresses, Ann Archer. She's like the Ann Archer of this movie. Like she's like, Ann Archer is, you know, by all definition, an extremely attractive woman that people would want to have sex with, but maybe not in, you know, she's not as nutty as Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction. So she's not going to be as like, you know, and so that's exactly how this mom was. She was the Ann Archer.
The minute Glenn Close drinks out of the sink, you know she's crazy. Whenever they're fucking and she just stops fucking and drinking out of the sink, you're like, oh, this is gonna end bad. I've been in these situations. This is bad.
I saw an interview with her where she was like, they asked her, they were like, you're like a really good actor. And like, what made you want to do Fatal Attraction? She's like, I took the script to a psychiatrist and I said, I'm not going to do this movie unless you can tell me that this character would really exist. And she took the script and showed it to psychiatrists, and psychiatrists are like, yeah, this is a clear-cut case of somebody being like a molested, malignant narcissist who's like going to grow up and be crazy and needy and psychotic. And she's like, oh, that sounds good. Okay, so I'm playing a real person. All right, I'm going to do this.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Glenn Close has said, though, in later interviews that she regretted taking the part and making the film. I think it's a spectacular performance, though.
She didn't like that. I think it was like, I know she didn't like that they made like that they kept reshooting the ending and making it more fantastical and
yeah,
like, playing to the bleachers of like some Granguinol audience or whatever. But
it turns into a slasher.
Yeah.
She's very tasty at the end. She comes out of the water.
Yeah. I hope she doesn't really mind the whole movie. I mean, that movie is so much better than like stuff that she's actually proud of. Like, what was the name of the movie where she played a woman pretending to be a man? Like, nobody knows. Nobody remembers the name of that movie. But we all know what Fatal Attraction is.
I don't know what movie you're talking about either.
Michael Douglas is an asshole movie. And we love him.
Yeah, Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction, and Disclosure, like the Michael Douglas triptych of him being like. Yeah.
There's also The Game. He's pretty douchey in The Game.
He's super douchey.
I forgot about that one.
And the whole game is designed to turn an asshole into a better person.
Yeah,
in that future film.
See, it's like an extended version of that segment from House of the Dead, where the douchey businessman falls down the elevator shaft.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one we watched on the program sometime back.
I like that we're supposed to like his behavior in Disclosure is horrible. And we're like, yeah, but he's the hero because we've been told he's the hero, and let's just go with it.
Do you remember that part where he he comes home arguing with his wife about like defending how he didn't really sexually harass Demi Moore, and like the Asian nanny comes down, she's like, the children are sleeping, and he's like, hey, Chow Min, come down here, I want to exercise my dominance on you. And it's just like the fact that he like attacked their like live-in domestic is just this like plot point to show like what a harmless cornered possum of a man he is at that point. And I'm like, looking back at that, I'm like, yeah, he is kind of like a real piece of shit in that movie.
Yeah, and Demi Moore, what's her like? She's like, you weren't fighting me real hard when my dick was in your mouth. And I'm like, whoa! Like when they said that in the theater, the whole audience was like, oh, I've never heard anything like this in my life.
When I saw it, so I hate to admit this, but I saw Disclosure like 3 times in a theater because I really I loved it. It was like, I love courtroom dramas. I love like tech stuff. Michael Crichton was really hot at that point. And I really love like that kind of weird, like narcissistic rant / monologue she goes on. That's kind of like the female version of like Alec Baldwin in Malice talking about being God. And she's like, I work a man's job and make a man's money. And you expect me to just walk around with a parasol and wait for a man to fuck me like it was 100 years ago. And then like, and that's like her explanation for like why this happened. Like, I work in like corporate. I'm an executive. Like, you can't expect me to not jump men in my office. And everybody else is just kind of like looking at each other in the deposition. Like, is that okay?
If you're good enough at what you do, you can almost get away with anything. That's what I've learned. And unless a meaner, bitchier woman can get one over on you, which is kind of what happens in.
I do have to say though that like one of the things I really love about Disclosure is Rosemary Forsyth has like a really big like supporting part in that, and like when was the last time she was in like, Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice, and she was on like Days of Our Lives, and then she just disappeared. And then around the time she was in Disclosure, she was kind of doing like, prescription drug ads for cancer medication and like doing like, teaser trailers for I Still Know You Did Last Summer, but she's not actually in the movie. So, I mean, kudos to Barry Levinson for actually giving her a meaty role, like in her golden years, as it were, I think. So, some old Canadian character actress, like, like send her out like A-list style. Like when was the last time she was in a movie that was #1 at the box office for like 3 weeks in a row? Like that was a nice thing to put her in the movie.
You guys want to look at some stuff that's coming up on the page this week?
Yes.
Sure.
Some fantastic ads to share. Here's the first one.
Oh, not my face.
Ooh.
This one's pretty weird. This double feature in London, Ghost Chase. Can we talk about that? Because I don't know what movie that is. Roland Emmerich directed it.
It's adorable art. It's like
is that Cameron's Closet?
No.
Ooh.
I have another. Cameron's Closet was showing it at exactly the same time, but this is Ghost Chase.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's a totally different movie. Oh, it's an old Hollywood mansion. The spirit of an old family retainer inhabits a grandfather clock. When a movie company uses the mansion, the spirit comes out. Wow.
It was written by Roland Emmerich?
Yeah, and directed by him, too.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah.
So it was like this and then Stargate?
Yeah, this is from 1987, a.k.a. Hollywood Monster.
And of
I'm
course,
watching the
Maniac.
trailer on IMDb, and holy shit, it's probably going to be on the show.
Yeah, this looks like a blast. Looking at some of the stills online, the little old man monster is sort of a little bit Yoda-esque.
Yeah. I love
Well,
it.
so I guess they weren't playing together. It was matinees for Ghost Chase. Evenings
You
for
have the right
Maniac
to
Cop.
remain silent forever.
That poster's amazing, by the way. All the Maniac Cop art is, but that's a great one.
Yeah.
We're getting Maniac Cop at the drive-in this year.
Lady in White.
Oh,
This is one of
Sam.
my childhood favorites. I love Lady in White so much. Such a great holiday film too, kind of going through all of the seasons, all of the holidays, beginning, of course, on Halloween night.
It has one of the scariest scenes when he is stuck in the coat room. That's like such a childhood
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they do with the ghost kind of being choked and lifted by an invisible person because that person is still alive and not a ghost.
Yeah.
It's so clever.
Yeah.
Great film. I love the 80s remake of The Blob so much.
It's one of my favorite movies.
There's an ad that I've never seen before.
And I usually don't campaign for sequels, but the crazy priest you see at the end that he keeps a piece of the Blob, I would love to follow his story into
Del Close.
Del Close, yeah, the founder of Second City.
Who was actually in Beware the Blob.
Yeah. Like supposedly a lot of his dialogue is just him being Del Close and ad-libbing and improvising that.
So Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont, they also co-wrote something else, right? Nightmare.
Dream Child, Freddy 4.
Yeah. Do you think they still hang? Do you think they still talk after Frank Darabont made it big, or?
I don't know. I was just telling my wife asked me she'd never watched Walking Dead if I liked it, and I said, yeah, when Frank Darabont did the first season, it was pretty good, and then it didn't after that.
Yeah, I really like The Mist.
Yeah. Wow, this would be a crazy night to see all four of them.
That's
a long night of movies.
marathon.
Yeah, and don't fall asleep during it, or you'll die.
And one more thing about Lady in White. I'm kind of a sucker for horror films with a very nostalgic angle, like somebody in their adulthood looking back at their childhood and telling that story. And Lady in White is maybe the best, but I also love Silver Bullet for the same reason. And, And
Yeah, that's
the
good.
live action Disney film Something Wicked This Way Comes is pretty fantastic too.
Which of these nightmare films is the best?
I would say 1, but I also am very fond of 3, and I know that this might be an unpopular opinion, but I do not like 2. I really don't. I appreciate the queerness of it, but I just think it's the least imaginative of all of the films in the series, and yeah.
It's kind of like The Ring 2, where the original was so kind of inventive and creepy and like had so many interesting things to do, and then like the sequel's like, let's just go with possession.
Yeah,
and then that's kind of like Nightmare 2, where it's just kind of like very blasé compared to like the inventiveness of the original.
Him attacking the pool party like breaks his powers too. It's like he really can't do that.
Also, it's the only movie I think I can remember where somebody is looking at Freddy without Freddy knowing they're looking at him. Like Jesse's watching Freddy putting things in the furnace.
Yeah.
Usually Freddy is the one who's like spying on them and like is pulling all the strings. And in this one, it's like Freddy's like being surveyed, like when he doesn't know he's being looked at. Like that seems kind of weird.
One thing I'll say that I do like about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Okay, this is a little bit of a journey. Go with me on this journey. It might take like a full 2 minutes. So anyway,
you have the floor.
I believe that the Duffer Brothers, when they made Stranger Things 2, the second season of the show, were heavily inspired by A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, with the possession of Will by a creature from the Upside Down. And I think that there is meant to be a queer parallel too. Just I remember discovering the series Bible of Stranger Things when season 2 premiered, and in the series Bible, they talk about the queerness of Will's character. Like it was in their minds for the character from the inception of the show. And just kind of like the same language, like the creepy language of like, it's in me that you hear. That's kind of weirdly sexual. And how it kind of is very queer in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and how Will is a queer character in Stranger Things.
But the actor himself didn't even like come out until this year.
True.
I wonder when he gets older. I feel like that would be so kind of it's like I get really annoyed when like people like adults who knew me as a kid are like, oh yeah, I could tell you were gay, and I'm like, I was 9, like leave me the fuck alone, like I'm just running around playing, like so like like this actor, he like comes out this year, but it's like for years before people have been looking at him and like coding his character as queer because there's like no other choice.
Maybe he might have, I don't know. Yeah, because like the idea was there presumably before they started casting the series.
I just would feel, I don't know, like when you're young, you like to think of yourself as like a big mystery, like teenagers.
No one knows.
Yeah. Like teenagers always think they're so opaque, like, oh, I'm so deep, I'm so opaque, like nobody understands. And like everybody knows. So it's just kind of weird to realize later that like you're very gay and people can figure it out. And you're on a TV show and your character is actually that you're playing is actually also gay. Even if it's not written yet.
And then also, of course, like not on a queer subject, but A Nightmare on Elm Street and Stranger Things. Stranger Things 4 goes full A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I kind of love the face-to-face encounter between One and Nancy, and how he kind of in his kind of gravelly, throaty, disturbing voice like Freddy Krueger just says Nancy, just like Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. Yeah, the Duffer Brothers are clearly huge fans of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
The first one was really scary.
Yeah,
that's something that's always lost now that so many sequels have come and gone, and Freddy's sort of like a joke. And it wasn't like that in the first one. Like I remember that was really scary. You didn't see him on screen as often as you do in the sequels, and he didn't make these like wisecracks. You know, he
Right.
did, but it was kind of like, you know, it was still scary. And then they sort of like just diffused the horror out of that character.
It's the idea that the parents are responsible for him. If they hadn't burned him, he would
Yeah.
have just maybe gone to jail or who knows what happened. But they, then by covering it up and by hiding it for so long, you know what I mean? That's the
They
reason.
gave him his power.
Yeah. And that's what
I don't know. It's kind of like, I feel like it's just because, you know, he had a couple of wisecracks in the first one that they were
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what, you know, test audiences have said that they responded well to that. So let's do the entire thing. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was too much. Like a little bit would have been welcome, but it just went too far over the top.
I don't know. I'm such a huge fan of the original. Like, I like the fact that franchises exist, but I don't know. I was talking to somebody about this today, and I was saying that, you know, they were like, "Oh, are you gonna go see like, you know, Scream 6?" And I was like, you know, to be perfectly honest, like I know this is an incredibly unpopular kind of delusional opinion, but I wish that Scream were just like Clerks and just like revisited the original legacy characters every 10 years to show how they were aging. Who are these fucking new teenagers on my lawn? Like, get them out of here. And, you know, because I never really saw Scream as like a teen slasher series. I just saw it as a slasher series about people my age because I was the same age as the original characters.
Yeah.
So I could still watch a slasher series that was only 46-year-olds, and I'd be happy with it.
It's a lot harder to get away from the killer when your knees hurt.
I know, but that would make it interesting because it would like Clerks. You know, I just want to watch like I want Scream to sort of stand as like an allegory for like the aging of Gen Xers. Like, I don't want to watch Gen Zers getting chased with knives. Like, I don't even want to talk to them, you know, on the phone, let alone like,
Maybe
watch a movie about
where
them.
you see them get killed then, so that you can enjoy it in that way.
That's what one of my coworkers said. They said, well, then you should really like the new Scream because they all get stabbed. And I was like, oh, you know, I don't know. We'll see.
How about this one? We were just talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
It took me a really long time to give Fright Night Part 2 a try because ever since I was in middle school, I've been a huge fan of the film and just couldn't believe that anything could compare to the original. And when I finally saw Fright Night Part 2 a couple of years ago, it did not compare to the original, but I did really enjoy watching it, and it was great to see some of those characters return. And I also really enjoyed the androgynous vampire on roller skates. That was pretty great.
Yeah. I like the idea that it flips, that Peter Vincent becomes the believer.
Yeah.
And I like
Charlie
that,
doesn't believe anymore.
yeah, and that Charlie is also now the one being hunted and to be seduced is really cool. And what's his name? Grease, the guy who plays the killer is coming after his girlfriend, is really good in it. So he's good in a lot of movies. So, but I dig it.
I found a whole bunch of Spanish one sheets at the Red, White, and Blue one time, like a couple of years ago, and this was one of them that I got. I have like a Spanish language one sheet, theatrical one sheet for this. I got also Night of the Living Dead 1990.
Oh, nice.
And The Blob. It's like fucking amazing theatrical one sheet for The Blob, where it's like a body hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, nice. At the hospital?
I don't know. It's just like, yeah, there's like an arm and a head, but they're hanging from the ceiling. It's pretty amazing. It's one of those things, you know, like there's no mall space in this house, so it stays in the closet.
Tracy Palma says, I just hate Gen Z. Absolutely, because I can totally agree with that. I've actually, I think I've told you guys this, that I'm thinking about moving to a 55 and up community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I'm just like, you know what? I just want to hang out with like Gen X for the rest of my life. And, you know, I just want to pretend like people younger than me don't exist.
Come to Monongahela. That's pretty much it.
I was looking at a house and I was looking at Monongahela real estate listings, but Bill told me that that I would be sad living by the river or something.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say is I think it's I don't know, I think it's good to make room for new generations in the horror
Yeah,
genre.
to pay into Social Security and to shut the fuck up. No, I'm a grouchy old man. Like when I was younger, I was so like I thought old people that didn't like young people were ridiculous, but now I understand. So
I love this movie. I rented this literally the day it came out, and in Tarantino's new book, he said that Ken Russell was the only director who never sold out and just kept making crazy shit, no matter if people wanted to watch it or not.
It's so awful the way that England has just blacklisted him, shunned him, not embraced him as the national treasure that he is.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love this movie.
I saw this theatrically when it came out.
Oh wow!
It was fucking amazing. It was at the Pittsburgh Playhouse. And I was going to Point Park College at the time, so we could just go for free. I saw all kinds of good shit that way, like Whit Stillman's Metropolitan. Really, like stuff that I wouldn't normally go to the movies to see. It really sort of opened my mind to different types of films, and this was one of them. This was the first Ken Russell film I'd ever seen. I still love it.
it's funny too because it also kind of fits in with that whole sort of. I feel like every horror movie from the late '80s was also like a comedy. Like there was something about that era where like they couldn't make straight horror. They had to make it kind of jokey, and like Lair of the White Room has so many funny moments, but they're not obnoxiously funny. They
it's very natural.
Oh yeah, like when she's like delivering that like she has that guy who's like drowning in the bathtub, and she's delivering that soliloquy about how she's going to kill him or whatever, and then the doorbell rings and she's like, oh shit. Or something. And it's like it's really funny, you know, without even like really like making itself obviously funny, you know, like Critters or something.
It was definitely the direction most 80s horror films went, and you know there were exceptions, but maybe few and far in between. The ones that come to mind are Don't Go in the House and Maniac and Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Those ones really get under my skin, and many others do too. But yeah, by and large, 80s horror it leans into the goofiness.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean it's like I thought that, you know, Sleepaway Camp was pretty tongue in cheek, but then compared to Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, Sleepaway Camp 1 is like Don't Go in the House.
Yeah. The kill scenes in the original Sleepaway Camp are genuinely effective and disturbing.
Oh yeah, burning and bees and all that stuff is like
bees.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the bees.
Yeah. And the makeup effects were surprisingly good for those kills too. But you're right, Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, they're pure comedy.
Yeah. It's the same thing as like Texas Chainsaw 2 or like yeah, like I think like what were some like Night of the Creeps, I remember as like being feeling very sort of like late 80s funny haha horror, you know.
In my defense of Chainsaw 2, I will say it is the most disgusting movie ever. Like everything in that movie is covered with gore, and it's just rot, like nonstop rot.
Oh yeah. Or there's like these random scenes where like you know, he'll you know, he kicks the wall and like guts fall out.
Yeah.
And it's like, whose guts? Wait, where are they? Like, okay, fine, sure.
And it's a miracle that it ever got made because it literally went from script to screen in like 7 weeks, which is insane. The conditions it was shot under should not have been the conditions it was shot under. Like it was crazy how rough it was.
I just want to say to Steve Wilson in the chat, your dad should be grateful that you took him to see Altered States, because Altered States is incredible.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I was wrong. Altered States would have been the first Ken Russell film I ever saw,
Yeah.
because that was on HBO.
Yeah.
I remember I saw The Devils. Okay, so I saw The Devils when I was really young, and I remember
Really?
being and it's funny because so I saw The Devils and I saw Clockwork Orange when I was really young, and I remember being really terrified by them and scandalized, and I thought I was watching like snuff movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I got a little bit older, I was like, oh, these two movies are really funny, and there's actually a lot of satire, and they're actually not really trying to be serious at all. They're actually trying to like drive home a completely different point than the one that they're like portraying. And so I don't know, it's like it's kind of weird. It's like when you're in a Sesame Street state of mind, like something like Clockwork Orange and The Devils is like unbelievably horrifying. It's only when you get a little bit more mature that you're like, okay, I can appreciate this.
And Oliver Reed and the Devils, my goodness.
Bless you, bro.
Oliver Reed in anything.
I know.
I like. I love
Here, here. Women
burnt
in Love.
offerings. I'm like, you can drown me in the pool.
Women in Love.
Yeah, I mean that's just I don't know. It's like Women in Love is such an obvious choice now. It's like I almost want to be like the naysayer and be like, well, you know that. Because I love Alan Bates. I'm obsessed with Alan Bates. I'm like, so I want to be like, oh, well, when he and Alan Bates were wrestling naked, like, you have to do a little bit more to impress me or whatever.
Tarantino says in his book that when that scene played, the entire audience was just real quiet.
That scene is taken directly from I don't know, like, I mean, that would be like, I guess maybe if, like not since, I don't know, like, if, I don't know, Bill, what do you think? Like, you always mention it. It's kind of a...
Oh, it's iconic for me.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word. Wait, didn't Ken Russell direct that?
Yeah.
Women in Love? Okay, see, I keep remembering Ken Russell films I saw. I have been watching Ken Russell my entire life. I retract every statement I made. I can remember seeing that on HBO, and it sort of changed my life. I was like, wow. It was one of my Phoebe Cates moments. Phoebe Cates by the pool.
Nice.
Oh, Manhunter.
Yeah, how about that?
That's one of
Critters
my
2 got nobody's attention, but finally someone said, man.
No, I love Manhunter, and I mean, does it sound gauche to say I prefer it to Silence of the Lambs, but I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I really love it. It's got some really great scenes. The scene in the grocery store where he talks to his son about being a grown-up is one of my favorite scenes in a movie. It's so well shot.
Oh, and also, Mike, you were talking about being afraid of the dark. That final scene with the night vision goggles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's obviously better than Red Dragon, but there's so much in Manhunter. Like I can watch it anytime. It's one of my favorite movies.
Well, Michael Mann is a genius.
Yeah. Yeah. And I consider
But there's no Jodie Foster.
Yeah. Oh.
Speaking of Ken Wiederhorn films.
Yeah.
Just when you thought it was safe to be dead and watch
the same movie
a clip
again.
from one of my movies on TV.
I should share, less than a week ago, I went to a screening of the original Return of the Living Dead at the Music Box Theater in Chicago. And before the show was a live burlesque act. And somebody dressed as Trash, Linnea Quigley's character from Return of the Living Dead, and performed burlesque. And it was freaking incredible. There was another burlesque performer who did kind of like a more general gothic burlesque routine, and another performer who was dressed in drag and did a number from Rocky Horror Picture Show. But it's really fun. It's a group called Abhorrent Cinema. So anybody in Chicago or who knows anybody in Chicago, check out some of their screenings at Music Box. They're going to be doing them monthly from now on. And every one of them is going to open with some kind of live act.
That sounds great.
Lorimar distributed the movie we watched tonight. Scream for Help.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a connection.
I never
They
thought of
took all
them.
that Dallas money and started making big movies with it.
Was Lorimar a theatrical distributor in the U.S.? Because I only ever kind of remember their logo from like cable movies.
I think they did cable and video in the U.S.
Yeah.
So this is
Okay, now we have to talk
this
about
is the
Critters
Easter
too.
one, right? I think
What
this
was that?
is the Easter one with the Easter bunny that gets critters in its costume.
Yeah.
Cruncha, cruncha, crunch. Yeah.
I just remember I didn't like it. I wasn't a
Critters
big
too.
fan of the Critters movies.
Oh, I am. I mean, I have one in my house named Cubby. So
Aw.
I'm a big fan. He's built just like a critter. He has a belly just like one. He acts just like one.
I have a bit of a soft spot for adorable little monsters, so
Mhm.
I appreciate the Critters movies. They're not the best, but they're
Do you
fun.
like munchies?
Oh, Munchies and Munchie.
Yeah.
Um,
Head for the hills, mama. Yeah. Yeah, Munchies is terrible. Hobgoblins is
Hobgoblins is real bad, but
yeah.
the same director made Vice Academy, and so I have to say, okay,
Yeah.
Rick Sloan.
a lot of people are annoyed by Uncle Impy and Sorority Babes of the Slimeball Bolorama, but I love Uncle Impy, and I love
Yeah.
that movie too.
Did you see the sequel yet?
No, I
It's
hear
on
that.
Tubi.
Oh, sorry, what's that?
It's on Tubi.
Is it worth watching?
No. You've seen the first one, you've seen it, but I mean, it is nice that what's her name directed it. Brink Stevens directed it, so that's
Right.
kind of cool.
Oh, she did?
I don't know. Yeah, it's only about 65 minutes.
And Kelly
Um,
Maroney is in it, right?
That's
Yeah,
much to ask.
I kind of like the idea that the two of the characters that died, Brink Stevens' character and I can't remember who the other actress is, they've been trapped with him inside the bowling trophy since the last movie. And so when they get out, that part's funny. It was shot in Cleveland and wherever Full Moon's base is now. They have a new mansion in Ohio somewhere, I'm sure. Vince will know.
Nice.
But yeah, it's fine, but it's, if you've seen the original, Linnea was supposed to be in it, decided not to do it. She's like, why would I, instead of being, Spider had already come back in the movie Clownado, if you haven't seen that.
I've never known Linnea to make like a creative decision like that. She obviously had a doctor's appointment or something.
Yeah. I know.
Turn it down.
It sounds good. It sounds good though, doesn't it? It sounds like
I decided that this didn't sit well with my, no, like she's busy. she had to go to traffic court or something. Like,
yeah. Bill, you want to see what came in the mail this week?
Sure.
Yes.
Some of these I bought too. So, explore. Shatterdead shot on video movie that I love, and it's really great. And this is the Saturn's Core Blu-ray, came out a little bit ago. I highly recommend this movie.
Notorious for zombie sex.
Yes, a lot of it, and zombie abortion too. I bought these from reading the Tarantino book. I'd never had all the Dirty Harry movies, so I just got that. But excited. Becca bought this. Is pretty cheap at Walmart right now.
I'm really curious to check that one out.
It's interesting.
Mark likes that movie.
Yeah.
I just
So some new stuff from Arrow. There's no cover, so it's not super exciting, but the movies are The Assassination Bureau, Heart of Dragon, the Jackie Chan movie, and Lover's Lane, which is a slasher I've wanted to see for a long time and for some reason never checked out. So excited. These are from Mill Creek, and I really dig these slipcases that are rental store slipcases. They kind of look like a rental. And Fear.
Fear. That's a fun one.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the. They're supposed to make a female-centric one, which I kind of hope does and doesn't happen, because this movie is it's way better than it should be.
I agree. Yeah, it's an effective thriller.
And you expect Mark Wahlberg at this time in his career to be the nice guy. Do you know what I mean? And he's absolutely bonkers in it. So I really dig that about him. And it has a great scene on the roller coaster with wild horses playing.
Yeah.
Sundays.
He's generally.
I've never seen this
movie.
Yeah, The Fan. I've never seen that. So. And Mike, you said a movie that you wanted to apologize for liking. I'm going to apologize for liking this movie, Problem Child. Why? I don't know why. I'd never seen it, and I watched it, and I laughed like a fucking idiot during it. I don't know why. It's a down.
John Ritter's a genius.
Yeah. But also if you watch it, originally the writers, the same guys that wrote this wrote Ed Wood and People versus Larry Flint. This is their first movie, and they really wrote it to be a black comedy, a more humorous version of The Bad Seed, and of course it didn't come out that way. But they wrote it as if he really is Satan. So if you watch it, I know he dresses him as in one scene. Though there is one part when Jack, what's his name, the grandfather gets thrown down the steps, and then the cat does, and then the next scene, the cat has casts on his hands walking, followed by a scene where an entire birthday party gets blown up. I'm like, man, that's a lot of shit happening and way too quick. And it made me laugh. I think it made me laugh for really how dumb it is. So I really kind of dug that.
That movie, Problem Child, and the sequel were really big in my own childhood, and my family made fun of me constantly and branded me a problem child, referencing that movie.
I like it. It's based on a true story. The writers had read in the LA Times that a child had been adopted 10 times and kept coming back.
Aww.
And they thought, well, what if the kid really did deserve it? So in the movie, the kid has come back 30 times to the orphanage. And finally, Gilbert Godfrey's like, well, I'll just make him sound really good. John Ritter, who obviously wants a kid. Also, it's where John Ritter met his wife, Amy Asbeck, on the set of that movie.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool. And it made me kind of sad because John Ritter was only like 53 when he died. And really liked him in a lot of stuff.
What did he die from?
Heart problems. So, yeah.
Another kind of stupid but fun and I think moderately clever 90s comedy, Stay Tuned, with John Ritter. I think it was tons of fun.
Yeah, he's really good in that. He didn't get to do too many movies, but Here at Large, I say, is a fun movie too. I always liked him, and also there's an urban legend that's not an urban legend. That there's an episode of Three's Company where his balls were hanging out from his shorts, and you couldn't see it until high def came about. Robin from Cinema Sewer wrote an entire article about it because he said he was just got a high def TV and was looking at Nick at night and said, "Holy shit, that's his balls!" and got up and paused it and woke his wife up and said, "Look, John Ritter's balls are on our TV." Like, please let me fucking sleep. But yeah, it was an urban legend that became true. So now you'll all be like, "Man, I really got to find that out." He wore a lot of low cut shorts on that show, so I assume that's probably how it happened. It's kind of like when Shogun aired on American TV for the first time. TVs had just changed, so that they had cut it so that a lot of the scene with one of the love scenes, you were only supposed to see the woman from here up, but when they changed the aspect ratio, you could see full nudity. And of course, in 1981, that scandalized people that we would see a nipple on TV. God forbid.
On TV.
Yeah. Ooh.
You just didn't see that kind of thing.
No, people lost their minds.
Do they still? Now that they have parental controls and stuff, do they show boobs on TV, like American Horror Story or something like that? Okay,
you see it on American Horror Story. Once
you get into the cable world, it's a little different, but broadcast doesn't. That's what's weird because on Peacock is broadcast but not broadcast, and Poker Face has a ton of F words and
because I remember that I don't think it wasn't NYPD Blue, but it was something with Mariel Hemingway. I remember in the 90s, and Mariel Hemingway was going to be nude on the show, but she was covering up her nipples, but she was and it was very
they used to have to put a warning before NYPD Blue. I remember here's what you're going to see this and you're going to see this.
Yeah, Sipowicz is going to call someone an asshole. Brace yourself.
Yeah. It was appointment TV, though, Mike. It was a big deal.
I know. Well,
also, speaking of cop shows, the guy who played Captain Courage on Hill Street Blues directed it. What's his name? Dennis Dugan, who did all the Adam Sandler movies.
Oh, yeah, and he was on Moonlighting, too, the last 12 episodes or something.
He was her first husband, yeah.
Yeah.
Maddie's first husband, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and he was in The Howling.
Yeah, you said that. He is in The Howling, yeah.
Yeah, the one who's driving the Mazda or the guy's like, not all of us have enough money for a Mazda. Okay, some of us have to work for a living.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Captain Freedom, that was his name. But yeah, he was in a ton of stuff, and then he actually got the directing job because he jumped on the table and started screaming in the meeting with the producers, and he said, "This is the kind of chaos this movie needs," which makes sense.
That's kind of like the reason why I hate the film industry, because every time they talk about some major like deal going down, it's because somebody like lost their shit and attacked people in a really unpredictable way that threw them off. And it's like, I get why that's cool, but like, whatever happened to just like sitting down and like pitching your shit? Like when we attack Susan George to talk to her about Tintorero 2, like, we're not going to jump on a table and freak her out. Like, we're actually
that's what the
gonna,
movie is going to be that we make of what we do, is that we kidnap Susan George and what's her name at a convention, that we act like we're going to take him to the hotel.
I love how, because they're both British actresses who made movies in Mexico, that like we have to somehow like make it the same universe. And like
I 100% love it.
Demonoid and Tintorera happened in the same.
I want it to be kind of like My Dinner with Andre, with just them eating dinner together, and it's just a movie of them eating dinner, and she's like, "These men, these sharks. No one else in my life will listen, and I'll listen." And then they both listen, and then she says, "Now let me tell you about the hand."
Oh my God!
Damn hand.
That hand, and then we do a cut scene. The hand is like scurrying in the hallway and can't get in.
Oh yes, yeah. Maybe we can get like like Hugo Stiglitz to do like something like a cameo. Okay, we've talked way too much about this movie for this movie to never happen.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be a feature. It can at least be just like like a fake trailer that plays at film festivals or something. But like, if it doesn't, it has to happen. Otherwise, it's just like a tree falling in the woods.
Yeah,
with no one around to hear it.
My other new idea, Bill, I know where the lightning bolt's up, so I'll cut it short. I know it's 4 a.m. Is now that train derailments are a big thing, we can really bring back Night Train to Terror. I really think the more trains are more in the news than they ever have been before.
You mean do a movie we've already done on the program?
No, I mean make a new Night Train to Terror.
Oh.
And it ends with the train derailment. That's what it's about.
In the Rust Belt. Like another train derailment in Ohio.
Well, the one that happened in Ohio is right where my mom lives. It is 10 minutes from her house. So she's like,
there's a second one.
Water. Yeah. Lots of fun. That's in Chippewa where Mr. Belvedere lived.
So Byron Jordan, Philip Jordan's son, who was the lead singer / breakdancer in Night Train, like, I found his Facebook at one point, and like he had like old friends from the 80s who were like commenting on his pictures and being like, "I'll never forget how much fun it was going to the drive-in with you to see that movie you were in where you were like dancing around on like some train or something." And I was like, I want to hang out with these people. Like, I love the idea that was their brush with stardom, was having hung out with Byron Jordan, like at the premiere of his movie.
Wait till I stalk him in Salt Lake City. I will be like, "Hey, where are you at, Byron Jordan? Let's talk about your crazy grifter of a father."
This Salt Lake City trip of yours, you're killing a million birds with one stone. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now I have to do it. I tell Becca, we were debating it. Now it's like, we got to do it.
No, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You owe it to
us. I'm going to get a giant net dropped on me like the end of Halloween 6, and Becca will hit me with a stick.
And then they're gonna punch you in the face in like green, you can't do that on television. Snot is gonna come out of your nose.
Something weird's gonna happen,
I'll still say, "I don't know," and then all of a sudden it'll just start pouring out of my face. Oh man.
Hey, here's something I should mention. I'm gonna be on Newcastle After Dark.
Yeah,
I saw that photo of you guys posing together.
Dapper.
Would you like to see it again?
Yes.
I'd love to see it again. Oh man, it's like you had it ready.
My goodness, distinguished gentlemen.
Look at this distinguished gentleman. Look at how he's sitting.
Frank Palvino astutely pointed out that I am now middle management. So we have management left, management right.
You're the only one not wearing a vest.
I'm wearing a vest.
Oh, yeah,
it's
you
the
are.
same color as the shirt.
It's
I
white.
thought the vest was like a 5-timers club thing that you got it when you hosted it the 5th time.
I'm all in white like a preacher. Anyway, enough of that. Oh, I can't tell you what movie we did, but it's from the 70s and it's a drive-in film.
Fun.
We're
Blood and
really
Lace?
excited about it.
I guess was your first one. Blood and Lace?
It's not, no, it's not Blood and Lace. I don't think they've
okay.
done that one on their show, actually. That would be a good one.
I'm doing this week. I'm going to be on for the first time. I'm going to be on the Grind Bin podcast, and we're going to be talking about Blood and Lace.
No.
So I have Blood and Lace on the brain because I'm very intimidated. So I'm trying to like do my homework.
Oh, you're
before the show.
legit. That's awesome.
Oh, I forgot, Jennifer. The water. It's so cool. Clean.
I know, and Jennifer's just like, I'm thirsty.
Oh, you have to talk about her chicken hop she does in the freezer at the end.
Oh
before
God,
Jennifer
I
slams the
love
door.
that part where he locks her or she locks her and she's like, and they obviously cut between like two scenes of her jumping that they liked, and so they tried to combine them and like, and you put that in your like we're back.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with Blood and Lace, and you know that.
Blood and Lace is the thing that I love most about Blood and Lace is that a movie that's that sleazy should have just gone for an R.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if it's going to be PG, then like it should be about like giant monsters or killer sharks or something kind of, you know, gruesome but like child friendly. But then they try to like work, but then they're like, hey, let's make a sleazy movie about like, you know, incarcerated orphans and conniving ass people who are freezing them and stuff. But then we'll make it PG. And it's like, there's a real disconnect there.
John McDevitt, remind us when your program is coming up.
So the first screening is a week from today, or a week from yesterday, since it's now Sunday. Basically, it's the third Saturday of the month at 7 p.m. Every month for the rest of this year, March through December. And I'll mention one more thing. So at Facets, the place I work for my day job, I'm going to be co-presenting a screening of the original Suspiria with Barbara Magnolfi in person. And fun little bit of trivia about Barbara that I did not know until I co-programmed this with my friend Stephanie Sack, who's friends with Barbara and talks with her a lot. Stephanie discovered that one of Barbara's favorite films, if you can believe it, is The Crow, the 1994 Alex Proyas film starring Brandon Lee. And so we're also presenting that for this kind of halfway to Halloween program. Screening it the night before Suspiria, and it's kind of a surprise secret birthday party screening for Barbara, but we're selling public tickets to it, and Barbara I think knows about it at this point because she's posted on her social media the full series and knows we're showing The Crow, but it's a birthday present to her because she loves that film so much.
I know someone else that likes it.
Pardon?
Bill Van Ren loves that movie too because Thrill Call is in that movie for way longer than you would ever believe that they're in it. They're in it for like 6 minutes.
Oh wow!
Like we just talked about the other day. It's like I can't believe how long they're in this movie. It's great.
It's like a 2.5 minute song, and they stretch it out to like 7 minutes in the movie.
And After the Flesh is one of the best songs too.
The scene where the crow is, you know, flying over and they start playing like, you know, the Thrill Kill Cult song, and then like how it segues into like that gunfight and stuff. Like that's always been one of those like, you know, when you kind of like daydream about like, you know, if a genie gave you a wish and you're like, I wish that I would have like directed this movie. Like The Crow is one of those movies. Like I'm like, just like throw my name on that. Say Mike made that.
It's magnificent, and like it doesn't really get programmed for repertory screenings, which is shocking given the enormous cult following I think it still has to this day.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see a great turnout for that, and
awesome.
And create a revival of just excitement around that film.
Have you ever seen the sequel, the one with Vincent, whatever his name is, Perez?
I saw it in the theater the first week it was out. Yeah.
How was it?
I mean, it's not a terrible movie. It didn't, like, looking back on it, I'm not like irate, like how dare you or whatever. But it just doesn't. There's no magic like The Crow. Yeah. Like nothing about it makes me remember it and think it's cool. It just feels. It's kind of very much like a film by committee. Like you can tell that like a bunch of studio heads kind of like were like, do this.
I just discovered that James O'Barr, the guy who created the comic, did a shot-on-video version of The Crow before the original movie came out.
Really?
Yeah. It's only like an hour long, too. I'm watching it. So
is it good?
I haven't seen it yet. I've seen the clips from it, and it looks exactly like his comic panels. So,
where can one watch this version of the film?
I'll find it and send it to you. I found it on a Facebook page, actually. So, yeah, it's kind of exciting that it exists, even.
Truly. Yeah, that sounds like a really neat film.
I read the book like a million times before the movie came out. So I was like, it came at the right, man, what the soundtrack, the movie, everything came at the super right time for young me. So I loved it.
Nice.
I may have dressed as the Crow for one Halloween, but it was the pudgiest Crow you've ever seen. Yeah.
Like when I tried to be Marilyn Manson in 1990.
I was like the Penguin more than the Crow. That's probably,
I looked like Boy George.
I've got some homework for everybody, including people in the chat. If you've never seen the short film by the director of The Crow, one of his early short films called Strange Residues, it is freaking phenomenal, and you just must see it. It's only 10 minutes, if my memory is right. Spectacular. And I see a kitty.
This is Wally.
Wally,
have you come to say goodnight to us? We want to thank our special guest hosts, Mike Justice and John McDevitt. We're so glad you guys were able to hang out with us and watch two fantastic films.
Thank you.
You guys will have the record for the latest we go.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Because, like, what time is it where you are now?
4:16.
Wow.
Okay. It's 12:16 a.m. where I am. So.
And here it's 3:16.
Yeah.
Whatever time it is, wherever you are, we wish you will come back next weekend when we'll have AC Nicholas joining us for Hard Ticket to Hawaii and the Hawaiian werewolf film Death Moon.
I am beyond excited for you guys to watch. If you haven't seen Hard Ticket to Hawaii, it's more nudity than the second movie we showed tonight.
I already love it.
Yeah, and it has a radiated snake in it. It's got the craziest weapons outside of a James Bond movie. It's really awesome. And I'll talk a lot about Andy Sedaris and why I love him so much. He invented Monday Night Football and these movies. Who knew?
All right. Thanks for the DIADF. Bye.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.